Artists Association member and producer, and I'm your host for today's Half Hour with The Porter. And with us today, we have Alfre Woodard, executive producer, and she also plays Faye. Aml Ameen, executive producer, who plays Junior Massey, Ronnie Rowe Jr., who plays Zeke Garrett, Olunike, Adeliyi, who plays Miss Queenie, and Mouna, Traoré, who plays Marlene Massey. I've had a chance to watch it. I've actually seen it a second time, completely blown away. Can you please give us a quick overview of The Porter, of the show?
The Porter is set in the 1920s, just after the First World War. It's a collection of kind of stories following these porters that have just come home from war and the life in the community surrounding them. You have Marlene Massey, who's Junior Massey's wife. You have Queenie. Queenie is a gangster that's from Chicago. We get into her world as well. And you have myself and Ronnie Rowe Jr., who plays Zeke Jr., who plays Zeke. And we're basically two guys have come home from war and have started to establish our world and what our everyday normal life is going to be like. What happens after that is there's an event that takes place that kind of ricochets the community with the death of a particular brother of ours. And that kind of inspires both men on their particular journeys about how they're going to uprise their community and push things forward.
Yeah, and it is a fantastic journey that they go on. It's an incredible show, but I think it's best if we can actually get a glimpse of what it all looks like. So let's take a peek at the trailer for The Porter.
Junior. Shoes are important. When you walk like a man with answers, because whether or not you have them, that's who you have to be.
Do you know who I am?
I know you're in charge.
Of every unholy thing that sets foot in this city.
If I wanted to get the Porters into a union, what's the first thing I should do?
Always go for the head.
You think I need a partner?
I think you need a man that knows every vein in them trains.
I know y'all might be scared of what might happen if we do this, but maybe it's time we start thinking about what happens if we don't.
But it's union, you talking. And that's danger.
Knowing when to be a bull-headed Negro and when not to be.
My Puerto Topsy, the most invisible man on the earth.
There's no doubt that looks fantastic. Incredible, fantastic, excellent. But here's the question I want to ask you, Ms. Alfre Woodard. Okay, you got involved as an executive producer, and as you were reading and going through the script is one thing, and we see what the end result looks like because we just watched the trailer. But why did you want to get involved with this project and on a producer's level?
I have never been that impressed with a group of people starting off on a production. They're all African Canadians from all around, but Canadians. And they said to me that they all have a track record, they're celebrated professionals, but they had usually been the only Black person of color, and certainly Black person on their set. Maybe there were two, and I couldn't believe it. I was like, where, how does that happen? But, you know, I suppose when we think of Canada as post-racial, or they skipped racial or whatever, but Arnold opened up a whole world to me of what was going on north of the border for us here in the States at the same time as we were playing out a different scenario down here. So I wanted to be with them. I thought I was just going to be sort of consulting and doing that, but they, about 4 months in, they offered me a role. That role was a little too sedate for me, so I said, I'll come in if you let me play Faye, and so that's how I got there. But I just wanted to be with them. I mean, I have worked with a lot of exceptional artists and craftsmen, and I've never said I'm proud of something, but I am proud of being with the actors you see on screen today, with all the others that are there. Everybody came and they brought it because it was family, it was history, but history that reminds us that whatever you did last weekend was history. So it's not a drawing room, you know, I won't put down other things, but it is people. It's the living history, and these guys brought it. I wanted to be there with them.
I love it. I love your enthusiasm, how you're still talking about initially getting involved with the project. That says it all. Aml, you also worked as an executive producer. What was your involvement with the production, and what did it mean to you when you found out that Alfre Woodard was also coming on board as an executive producer?
Right, but when I read the script, the world that it painted, 1920s, was so profound and had so many different layers to it. I was like, wow. And then the character Junior Massey is this particular guy who's like complicated, and his brotherhood between Zeke, his relationship with his wife, Marlene, and then the gangster, Queenie. It's just a world painted. What I feel like we've achieved and continue to strive to achieve is the connection of the diaspora. So you have Chicago, you have people in the north of Montreal, you have the Caribbean influence, and the fact that this story, although set in Montreal, in Canada, is a Black story, period. And that a lot of people around the world can really kind of connect to that. It's just a beautiful celebration of Black history.
No, I like the way you frame that as this is Black history, because it is Black history. It's not just American Black history. It's not just Canadian Black history, but it's global Black history, because it's like you said, it's an important time that all of this took place, and there hasn't been a lot focused on this particular era or the people that existed in this era. And I think the thing that really attracted me to the series is my grandfather on my mother's side was a porter. That's how he got his business started. He was a porter when they lived in Savannah, Georgia. He earned a lot of money with that job and then relocated and started a janitorial service in Princeton, New Jersey, where all my family still lives today, except for me, because now I'm here in Kansas City, but it's for job reasons. But it's there's a deep connection with this story and how you guys told it, and my own personal connection and how my family went through that experience that you guys have recreated. And another really exceptional thing that the porter does, and I don't know if this is a phrase or a term, but I'm going to make it up right here, is the show spreads gender wealth, and they do so in a really exceptional way, because they develop the male characters and they develop the female characters and their strength on both sides. And when you talk about female empowerment, it starts with the character Miss Queenie. How did you prepare to bring her to life, and what all went into that? Because it's such an exceptional portrayal and character.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was, first I wanted to start with the women of my own family and how innovative and powerful they were, and vulnerable, and they always rose to the top. So I wanted to start with my grandma, because I think my grandma, she was Queenie, in her own right. And I truly believe there's a Queenie in most of us women, especially Black women. And so all I did was just highlight the dimensions that we all have. But before I continue, this role is rarely seen on TV or in the film medium, but Cicely Tyson did get a crack at her. She just wasn't shown enough, but even the little bits that she did show, she was so damn powerful. Her presence was so known, and so all she did was give me a platform to take it to the next level.
No, I love that you use that reference, because that's a great starting point, because no, that was an exceptional performance. But like you mentioned, because this is a series also, you had a little more screen time, which allows you to really develop the character a lot more, which you did.
Absolutely. And I mean, Queenie is a dream role, she's a Renaissance woman. She doesn't see herself beneath anyone. And that's how I've always kind of been raised, as a Caribbean African woman. So, I mean, I just put myself in that and the ancestors that come before me. And so that's how Queenie materializes, with a fearless presence. And I was so happy to play her, because I know there's a lot of young Black girls that are looking at who she is and and it's like giving them permission to be who they are. And I see how it has manifested on the streets, because everywhere I walk in Toronto, it's all anybody can talk about. And I see how I'm emotional because of it, because I see how she has affected them and what they feel that they can do. And they're just so proud of me. And so I know that a role like this is extremely important, and it's way bigger than I am.
It really is a great role. Now for you, Mr. Ronnie Rowe Jr., you're Zeke Garrett, and your character is constantly playing chess in this series. Talk about your character, Zeke Garrett, because his storyline is a storyline that we have 100% never seen before. And I love the whole entrepreneurial aspect of the storyline, and how it's the beginning and the formation of getting, Blacks involved into unionized labor.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think Zeke is a man that's battling his demons and his past. And I think the reason why he's pursuing the unionization of the porters is because he's trying to reestablish himself as who he was and be this new thing, because he's in search of filling a void from his past. Arnold Pinnock, the co-creator of the show, he gave us so many references, but me especially, books, links. I listened to a lot of porters, just real porters, and they were speaking about their experiences. And there's something about the joy that they maintained throughout the obstacles that they continued to encounter. So, I mean, to delve into something that hasn't been done like this, it's something that I was always hoping for. I feel that Zeke likens a character like Martin Luther King. So, he's trying to create something new for the porters and for the people of his community. And, he has to do it with his heart, and he kind of wears it on his sleeve.
No, I love the struggle that the character goes through and the importance of what you're trying to do. And for you, Mouna, you play Marlene Massey. And the interesting thing about this is, I mean, at the center line of what your character is doing is dealing with like Black healthcare, which is something that has been really front and center because we're currently going through a global pandemic. And I love how your story arc addresses this in this series.
Yeah, I mean, it's still really relevant. We know that particularly Black women face certain challenges within the healthcare system. Black bodies are seen as being able to withstand more pain. And so that affects how we're treated. And I think Marlene is a very early example of someone who understands that Black people, Black community has very specific needs. And some of those have been affected or have been determined by systemic racism and the fact that Black people weren't able to just walk into the regular white hospitals and get treated. They weren't able to have their needs met according to the things that make us us. So I feel really grateful to be able to portray that. And especially because in history, something that I learned from doing this show is that there were Black people and Black women at the forefront of the medical establishment, really trying to create space for Black people to get adequate healthcare. And we still are facing those issues today.
Yeah, 100%. 100% correct. Now, Alfre, you mentioned earlier that you were really drawn to the character of Faye, and you said in order for you to come on board, that's who you wanted to portray. Can you elaborate on why and what drew you to that character?
Well, I usually like to go to work when I think there might be something that I'll think of for a character to make them a human being that I think maybe somebody else may not, because there's so many good and capable women actors, but I always go, oh, you know what? And so I was interested in the portrayal of a woman. Every community needs all of the services. And that's what's great about Marsha and Anne-Marie as our showrunners, that everybody's world is complete. Each character's world, the portrayal is complete and it's complex. They're not, no one's without flaws and no one is without a lot of virtue. And a lot of times, women who are sex workers they are portrayed as without virtue. You know, that's that whole puritanical thing that happens. But I had this idea that, you know, it's 1921, whether you were drinking out of a porcelain cup or a tin cup, you were under the thumb of your husband, your lover, your brother, somebody, a woman was. And I imagine that that was a great place to be, in a house with other women. Some of the women might have come there from trauma, but once they got there, they knew they were there, they were protected, they had choice, they had agency that they didn't have on the streets. I wanted that brothel to be a place where, for people who needed acceptance about something in their lives that they couldn't get in their regular relationships, so that it became a place of joy, of expression, of acceptance. And so, you know, it looked like a trap house at first. This place is just, first of all, paint the house, put some numbers on it, put some ivy up. No, we're proud. We're doing a service. We're doing a better service than the bread baker, frankly. And I wanted for people to know that it takes everybody to make a community. And anyway, so that's something that I wanted to bring.
Well, we're going to talk about the production value in a minute, because the production value is fabulous. But before we do that, because we set up your character and you set it up so beautifully, let's take a look at a clip.
Shit! Is it Sunday already? Who let these preachers in?
Hi, my name is Marlene. I am with United Negro Improvement Association. Could I interest you in donating to uplift our lives in our community, Miss?
It's Fayana. Faye. And my community ain't in Africa. Horse got brains, too. So when I hear somebody trying to sell me on a better life across the ocean, in glory, I gotta ask myself, what is so bad about the life they got?
You all right?
Mais oui, Marlene. That'd be a lot better if it wasn't so goddamn hot in here all the time, but I'm mighty fine.
Fantastic. And as you spoke of earlier, the production values, I want to direct this question to Aml. As executive producer, what were the challenges to recreate this era, the 1920s? And how did you guys, the series, it all looks so rich. It's beautiful, the art direction, the editing, the cinematography, I mean, the costuming, hair and makeup, everything is so on point, accurate, and just so beautifully done.
Jordan, our DP, and RT and Charles, they paid attention to great detail about how, I mean, when I first walked into the train, the porter carts, you were really transported into a world. And as an actor, when you walk into those environments, it shifts something about you. And you have to do, when they really provide the best of an environment, you shift and you change in a way that really kind of makes you have to do less work. So I know that when I joined the show and I spoke to RT and Charles about the type of visual language they were going to use, they wanted the show to have scope and to be big, but to have an intimacy. And they wanted to use lighting in a way that felt like very natural lighting and what it would be in that time and era, to not overexpose it, to let people, the audience, lean in a little bit more and pay attention. And I think it was a really, as a filmmaker myself, I think it's a very bold move, you know. And one of the things people always mention or talk about whether they've seen the trailer or the thing, is this immediate shock. They're like, wow, like that is amazing. This is like A1, A-tier work. And I think that has everything to do with the hours long conversations and detail and excruciating like conversations they probably had to have.
And for you, Olunike, when you were prepping for your character of Miss Queenie, like how much preparation did you have to go into to really like immerse yourself into this era, into the year that all of this took place? Because it's a completely different world. It's not contemporary and it's something that's never been covered. What was your process?
Well, I had about 2 or 3 months of process with it. I tend to go outside in. I research the era. Like first, I'm a African Studies major at the University of Toronto in Canada currently. And what it does, it opens up a database of research to students that not generally everybody gets, right? And the databases of other universities around the world. And so I was able to dive into Queenie's history of coming even from Dahomey. Her ancestors are from the Dahomey tribe. And so I was able to go all the way back to her history in Africa to suss out why she was as fearless as she was and what her journey was into the Caribbean and then eventually into the United States. And so that was the written research or the academic research. And then it came down to who she was, and how she's painted by her experiences, why she does the things that she does, right? Because I had to paint the colors, and a part of that was learning the piano as well, which was really cool to be able to learn the piano because she sounded and moved like the piano. It was classy, the notes. She spoke the notes, and
I love that. I love that scene. I mean, it's just like very beautiful.
So beautiful, right?
Beautiful scene. Beautiful scene.
Yeah. And then the dialect comes in. And so once you get to the words, they kind of just fall off the page because you know why you're saying them. And it becomes like poetry, if you'd say. And so my process is pretty much been that. But I mean, I don't have a specific method that I go by. It's just more of picking and choosing little things like animals for her, and maybe hybriding them, and then you throw that all away and you get incredible actors like Ronnie Mouna and Aml, and you just play, and that's the beauty of the art.
Yes, it is, and it was all well worth it because you did a tremendous job in bringing Miss Queenie to life. Now I want to ask you, Mr. Ronnie Rowe Jr. The interaction between all of the porters was fantastic, and that world that this series creates of all the porters on the train was so just visionary and unique. How was it all done? Right? Because you're on the train. There's shots of the train, you guys outside of the train. How was all that brought to life?
I think that everybody just connected on such a really great level. Like even Aml off the jump, the way he initiated contact to build a rapport. And I think everything read so well because there's such a great rapport with everybody on set, and when you really enjoy the people that you're with and respect them, it translates on screen. And I think that's really why you were able to capture and take into things the way that you did, is because we were genuinely connecting with each other and enjoyed being there with each other. And we were really living in the moment.
No, I like that word you used, that you guys connected. The chemistry between the actors who played the porters was tremendous. So let's take a look at an example of that in this scene between you and Mr. Aml.
It's the people you're looking to keep company with?
It's bigger than them, Junior.
No, it's not. I mean, how you gonna sell these Charlies as a solution when they're the whole goddamn problem?
Not very well, apparently. Guessing you got your cream crew together?
It's not complicated, Zeke. What I offer these boys is not one day, maybe. It is in their hands right now.
Only you got a risk your neck with a gangster for it.
Calculated risk you can measure. But it's you that you talking. Now that's danger. Look, you want my help getting the boys in the room, I'll get them in the room. The rest is on you.
What the hell happened to him?
Look like the dog get bites.
As one of my favorite scenes between myself and Ronnie, it's the ideas that would continue through to today on how to get ahead. two Black men under the same thumb, under the same oppression, having two different ways of getting ahead, and very articulate, obviously, through the Martin Luther King, Malcolm X differentiation, you know. But I think that's such an important thing for an audience to grasp, is that the conversations have lineage, you know, on how we as a people move forward.
And it is also very true for the women, for Queenie, for Marlene, and for, what's our beauty's name?
Lucy.
Lauren. Yes. Again, Lauren Lott, who was just brilliant, because we see her, you know, she's, all of those women, very different positions that they've chosen to be in the world. And Mouna, you can speak to this, but they are all women with agency. And, you know, obviously Queenie and the colorism that Lucy is struggling against to bring her gifts forward, but especially Marlene, because she's righteous enough to be a Garveyite in the Garvey movement, but that sister's there bucking against Mr. Garvey himself.
Part of what makes her role so dynamic is that she starts off the series in this position of being completely committed to the movement, completely committed to the statements of self-determination, independence for the Black community that the UNIA stands for. But as she progresses through the show, not to give too much away, she sort of has this transformation where she really realizes that in order for her to do what she feels is in line with her purpose, what she's truly committed to, she has to maybe go outside of the rules and regulations of the organization. Mm-hmm. And what that means to her as someone who I think in some ways likes to be under the umbrella of the organization and the boundaries, it encourages her to tap into this quietly, creatively subversive quality that she has, and that I think a lot of women in that era had to have in order to survive.
Mm-hmm.
No, that's a great answer. There's just so much. I mean, there's so many themes that the series covers very well. I mean, we could talk on and on and on. I know we only have 30 minutes and it goes by fast, but that just shows you just how fantastic and well done this series really is, and how they really pay, you know, respect and tribute to the era and the people of the era. It's such a job well done. So I want to throw this question out, and this is for any of you to answer as we wrap this session, is in case someone hasn't had a chance to watch The Porter yet, what's the one thing that comes to mind that might entice them to start binging the show? That's what we do now. We binge watch things.
Ooh.
Who wants to take that?
It's entertaining, first of all.
Okay, great point.
Like, it's just absolutely cinematic, and it'll grab you from the very beginning. And I just love what they've done with all the characters. But man, we've got gangsters, we've got brothel owners, you know, we've got Black cross nurse, we have education, right? So I think it fits all the elements of what it takes to make a great TV series. And
jazz.
And the music, and the dancing, yes, and the singing. Oh,
I think the brothers are throwing down.
I think one thing the show offers is motivation, because of the correlations of the pursuit of Black ambition and excellence. You know, and you can watch it and get inspired and be like, look what these guys had to deal with, and still went after what they had to go after. And here I am now. How can I do the same thing? And so I would say motivation.
Often when you're watching Black cinema or Black TV, there's this kind of feeling of not having pride. And the one thing you'll take away from this show when you watch the show, because of its genre, because of its sex appeal, because of its jazz, because of the fully fleshed characters, that's me. I can be proud in the same way we've attached ourselves to other great movements, Black Panther, and you know, all these different things. It's something to take pride in and to recontextualize who we've been in history. No,
I think that's a great way to conclude. I love that you use that word pride, because it is, And I was feeling that every second I was watching the series. So that's a fantastic way to conclude. So I just want to say thank you to you all. Thank you to our friends at BET Plus, and to everyone watching. Thank you for joining us today for Half Hour.